Imagine taking the time to fill out a ballot, mailing it in, only to have it end up in the wrong hands. That's what happened to some folks in Scotland. Thankfully, the person who received them did the right thing.
And we're following breaking news out of Norwalk tonight, where we've learned officials are investigating a crash involving a plainclothes officer.
Oh my goodness, Dennis, can you hear that? The energy here has just been incredible. Fans are so fired up over the possibility of the Yukon Huskies making history tonight.
Kevin, we're told the fire started on the third floor of the 4-story building. And for some, the only way out was to jump.
Dennis, Ted Hakey was released from prison just a couple of days ago, so you might be surprised to learn this was one of the first places he visited when he got out.
But we are definitely keeping our eyes on it because you still see what some of those model runs are doing. And once we get to, I'd say, about Tuesday of next week, that's when we really will be able to fine-tune this with more certainty.
But it looks like we have a couple of nice days in there.
We sure do, yeah. So most of next week is looking pretty good, especially Wednesday through Friday. So enjoy it.
All right, will do.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
A family in West Hartford is getting pretty creative with their Halloween decorations this year. Check this out. It's a Trump versus Clinton display, and it's quite elaborate. The homeowner tells us he's lived in the house for 18 years, and every year his decorations get bigger and bigger. With this year's election right around the corner, he says he just couldn't resist.
I always know that our nation's politicians are going to give me plenty to work with. So I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I had a pretty good idea that I wanted to do a Trump wall. So this is my Trump wall.
Now we're told he's been working on this Halloween display since back in August and just recently began putting the decorations on display. They will remain up and through Halloween. The homeowner says simply he asks people to respect his freedom of speech.
Well, Dennis, if you see this blue flashing light, you need to move your car off the street or you risk it being towed. Yeah, and the score right now is 66-53 with about a minute to go. And that's the Huskies winning right now. So this place will explode in just a few minutes. But coming up in sports director Joe Zone will have all the highlights and reaction from the players coming up in sports. But for now, live in stores, Cheri Hardmon, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Now, once again, take a look at these surveillance photos. If you recognize the man, please contact Newington Police. Now, as far as that officer, we're told that he's going to be okay. He suffered only minor injuries. Live in Newington, Cheri Hardmon, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Well, Dennis, Denise, still a very active scene out here. Police tell us one person was taken to the hospital after being shot by police. No word yet on the extent of that suspect's injuries. Now, if you take a look behind me, there is a red SUV sandwiched in between two Waterbury police vehicles, and there appears to be a bullet hole as well as some damage to the back end of that vehicle. Right now, police have 3 streets blocked off, with Wood Street the heaviest police presence. Also on the scene, state police. We don't know what at this point led up to the shooting. This is a residential area, but there's also some abandoned homes as well as some office buildings in this area. Again, a police-involved shooting. One person taken to the hospital. No word yet on the extent of their injuries. We are working to bring you more information, and we will have an update for you tonight at 11. But for now, live in Waterbury, Cheri Hardmon, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Dennis, imagine taking the time to fill out a ballot, mailing it in, only to have it end up in the wrong hands. That's what happened to some folks in Scotland. Thankfully, the person who received them did the right thing.
It was upsetting because I'm saying, if it happened to me, how many more are like that if they were out there?
Kevin Kimligan couldn't believe his eyes as he went through 6 weeks of mail he had just picked up from his P.O. box in Scotland this afternoon.
The first thing that comes up that didn't belong there, which was the absentee ballot.
And you thought what?
I said they put that in the wrong box. They had to have. And then I kept going through, and then I found another absentee ballot, and I'm like, okay. And then I kept going through. I found another one.
You heard him right. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 filled down absentee ballots mixed in with Kevin's mail.
And I looked at the dates, and the dates were different, and I said, this isn't right.
Kevin says he's gotten other people's mail by mistake before, but nothing like this.
The envelope's got the return address, and I'm like, it wasn't like all one person, you know, it's one family. If you got the wrong person, those in the wrong person's hand, they're going to open them up, which is illegal, but they're going to open them up, look at them, and see who they're voting for, and it could easily sway a vote.
So we reached down to the Connecticut Postal Service to find out how something like this could happen.
In a statement, they said, the Postal Service recognizes the important role we play in the electoral process. and we apologize for this incident. We immediately reached out to retrieve the ballots, which we now know were sorted incorrectly through human error. They will be delivered Tuesday. Kevin returned the ballots to the post office this evening, but says he is disappointed that such carelessness nearly stripped 4 people of their right to have their voices heard.
Sad is if I would have come here 2 days later, it would have been, those votes would have never counted, and there's nothing you could do about it at that point.
Now, absentee ballots must be received by the close of polls on the day of the election to be counted. That includes absentee ballots postmarked before the election. Live in Hartford, Cheri Hardmon, Channel 3 Eyewitness News. Dennis, police say the suspect was pulled over for a traffic stop when he reached for a gun. There was a struggle that ended with the officer being dragged 150 yards.
This police cruiser dashcam video shows the dangerous interaction the officer had with the suspect. In the video, you see the officer hanging on the side of the green Honda Civic as the suspect speeds off. It happened on Saturday on Wells Road, just over the Weathersfield town line. But this all started here at the Best Market on Lowry Place, where police were responding to a shoplifting at the market. Now take a look at these surveillance photos. Police say this man is a suspect in both of those incidents. A woman at the scene, identified as Sandra Weeks, was taken into custody without incident. She has been charged with larceny for stealing $190 worth of beer from the market. Those who shop at the store say they were stunned to hear about the incidents.
Day and age and things like this happening and people's lives at risk, and I feel bad for the officer.
Acts like that, you know.
Well, it's good neighborhood policing, you know, and hopefully it's someone I know on the force. I have a good friend on the Newington force, so hopefully it wasn't him and he didn't get hurt, but I don't want no police officer to get hurt.
Now, once again, take a look at these surveillance photos. If you recognize the man, please contact Newington Police. Now, as far as that officer, we're told that he's going to be okay. He suffered only minor injuries. Live in Newington, Cheri Hardmon, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Dennis, Ted Hakey was released from prison just a couple of days ago, so you might be surprised to learn this was one of the first places he visited when he got out.
It feels like home.
Home. A word Ted Hakey wouldn't have used to describe a place of worship for Muslims not so long ago. The same place he fired 4 bullets into 14 months ago.
I spent so much time here with Zaire before I went in, so it doesn't feel strange at all. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. It just feels like home.
Hakey was sentenced to 6 months in prison for that act of violence on the Beit al-Aman Mosque in Meriden. Released from prison just 2 days ago, Hakey is back at the mosque, but this time spreading a different message than the one that sent him to prison.
Just speak to people and give them examples on everything that happened and how I was forgiven for Muslims all over the country. And once the apology came out, originally it was, it was awful. And then when I apologized, the attitude just changed.
6 out of 10 Americans don't know a Muslim, and all it takes is meeting one to dispel myths and to bridge the divide that is going on in society.
Zahir Bannon is one of the leaders of the mosque. He also spoke out in support of Hakey, but their painful chapter was revisited yesterday following the shooting at a mosque in Quebec that left 6 people dead.
Of course, we were prayerful, both for the victims and the perpetrators. We want God to change their hearts. We want them to change their own hearts, and that comes through education, really, getting to know one another, but meeting people. You don't become an expert through social media or through Googling. It's better to interact.
It's why they say they refuse to let what happened in Canada or at their mosque more than a year ago stop them from embracing people from all backgrounds.
We don't want to close our doors or lock our doors. We want to open them up even more.
Pretty much I'm just a living example how I can tell people that I was on the bad end. I was #1 hater. And then through a little bit of education, I completely changed my views.
And every Friday at the mosque, they have what they call a coffee, cake, and conversation. They say anyone is invited to attend. Live in Meriden, Cheri Hardmon, Channel 3 Eyewitness News. Well, Dennis, if you see this blue flashing light, you need to move your car off the street or you risk it being towed.
Winter storm Chris will be hitting Connecticut hard overnight, bringing several inches of snow with it, and folks are bracing for it.
We are ready. We have plenty of supplies. Kids have the day off already, and so we're all excited. Maybe make some snowmen tomorrow.
Stan and his family are staying in tomorrow. But for those venturing out with plans to head into Hartford, be aware of these blue flashing lights.
Oh, yeah, the parking ban.
Last month, the city began the Blue Light Initiative to be used during snowstorms to alert people of a citywide parking ban.
Well, for some people that don't got a parking spot, I don't think that's good because some places they'll tow you. If you're in the wrong place, some of my nephew's cars don't work, so they might get towed.
The blue lights have been installed at 16 major intersections throughout the city.
Make more people aware of the situation so they could do their job of plowing correctly.
Drivers who don't comply will have their vehicles ticketed and towed.
We've tried to do it in the neighborhoods where we've had the most towing that goes on during the snowstorms. Enforcement won't start until many hours after the parking ban.
The city has made several lots available for people to park in while the ban is in place, but Foley says if possible, stay home.
We're asking most of our commuters, please consider working from home tomorrow or taking the day off or whatever options you have available to you to avoid coming into the city tomorrow.
And reinforcing Foley's message, the governor's office has announced that non-essential first and second shift employees should not report to work tomorrow. Now, that Hartford parking ban will be in place through Friday at 8 a.m. If you would like more information on where those parking lots are, you can go to our website at WFSB.com. Live in Hartford, Cheri Hardmon, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Huge UConn fan. Yeah, we've been coming to games for 30 years.
But in his 3 decades of attending UConn basketball games, Jim Davis couldn't have imagined, as dominant as they usually are, a team that could ever reach 100 consecutive wins.
I grew up in the days of UCLA, and a number like this just seems out of reach, but it's tremendous. They deserve it.
Tonight, inside a packed, electric Gamble Pavilion, the Huskies are trying to make history.
100 in a row is pretty impressive. I couldn't imagine that.
The last time the Huskies lost a game was during the 2014-2015 season against the 6th-ranked Stanford.
I've watched UConn basketball my entire life, especially the women, and it's so exciting to have an experience like this. Like, no one's ever done it, so it's amazing for the school.
Sean Phelan was in his 2nd year at UConn.
I was here 2 years ago, I think, when they played South Carolina. I think it was 1 versus 2. I know it was a Sports Center game also. This is even bigger than that.
Those here tonight say there's no place they'd rather be.
I'm not going to rule out a court storming if they win. I think it could happen.
We have some of the best fans in the nation, so I think it's just going to be an amazing experience for everyone, students, fans. I mean, my parents, everyone at home is going to be watching, so it's going to be awesome.
This place will go crazy. Yeah, there won't be anybody leaving early today, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and the score right now is 66-53 with about a minute to go. And that's the Huskies winning right now. So this place will explode in just a few minutes. But coming up in sports director Joe Zone will have all the highlights and reaction from the players coming up in sports. But for now, live in stores, Cheri Hardmon, Channel 3 Eyewitness News. A sad update tonight in the South Carolina school shooting from earlier this week. Officials say a 6-year-old boy shot at Townville Elementary School on Wednesday has died. Jacob Hall passed away this afternoon after spending several days in the hospital. A 14-year-old boy opened fire at the school, hitting Hall and 2 others after police say he shot and killed his father at home. Family and friends are remembering the boy whose life was cut short. The suspect is being charged with murder and attempted murder as a juvenile. The other shooting victims, a 1st-grade teacher and another student, have been released from the hospital. Back here in Connecticut, members of the Sandy Hook Promise are remembering the young boy, tweeting our condolences to Jacob Hall's family and community. The Sandy Hook Promise was created as a way to prevent gun violence after 26 young students and educators were killed inside Sandy Hook Elementary School in December of 2012. The protests continued near San Diego today after officials released video of the death of an unarmed black man at the hands of police. Officers shot 38-year-old Alfred Olandro outside his apartment complex Tuesday after officers claimed he advanced toward them in a shooting stance. It turned out what they believed to be a weapon was actually an e-cigarette. Now protesters are calling for more training for officers on how to respond to people who are having psychological emergencies. Now to the latest on the Hoboken train crash. Today, federal investigators revealed there were no problems with signals at the New Jersey station where the train crashed, killing a woman and leaving more than 100 others hurt. A spokesperson for the National Transportation Safety Board says much of the investigation is still underway since the train can't be removed from the station because of structural issues. Investigators have interviewed the train's conductor and are now looking at surveillance videos from other trains to see what may have went wrong. To Florida now, where there are new concerns over the Zika virus tonight. This after officials say preliminary tests show a new sample of mosquitoes from the Miami Beach area has tested positive for the virus. The sample was taken last week in an area that was designated a Zika transmission zone. At least 35 people in Miami Beach have contracted Zika locally. Officials have been spraying the area hoping to get rid of infected mosquitoes.